Your host coming to you from Baker's Green Acres. Regular work day for me, regular farm day. Had plenty of things to do. And this is the Anyone Can Farm Experience live chat. And we are going to talk about some things tonight for sure. We're definitely got some things to talk about and serious things. All right. So Tuesday, what did we do here today? I know I was at it until right until I came in. And then my wife had some food for me, some fish. So I ate some fish, and now I'm ready to go. Here we are, May, and it's pretty summery. It's pretty summery out. I was in shirt sleeves all day, which is kind of nice. And let's see. Okay, we don't have anybody with us yet, but I don't usually wait until people come. Well, let's get a few people in here and then I'll start. No, I don't want to do that. I just go, and if people come, they come. If they don't, they don't. And I'm enabling the chat so we can have some comments tonight, which I would appreciate some comments tonight, actually, because we have a pretty serious subject to talk about. All right, so today we had our regular thing going on. We milked. Okay, Inga's with us. Right on. Right on. Been talking with your daughter lately and son-in-law. And that's what we're going to talk about a little bit tonight. We're going to do some preparatory action here tonight is what we're going to do. I maybe you would want to give them a heads up that we're going to be talking about the situation and preparing. We got to do some prepping for this. The rights of the people to raise chickens shall not be infringed. Right on, Donnie Mono. Right on. I like that. First, they came for my chickens, and I said nothing. Yes, we did our regular thing today. I did a biochar burn this afternoon. It started raining, and everything else was on hold while that was happening. So I went over there, and I loaded up the retort and lit her off, and ducked into the revetment there while the rain came down. Your security judge. Okay, that's a screen I haven't seen. Huh. Okay, I don't know what this is. Let's see if I can get this out. All right, it went away. Okay. I had a screen that went right over me, and it said, "There's a security threat." Okay. You never know. You don't know what to trust when it comes to that stuff. So I just X'd it out and it went away. Keith S. is with us. Hello, Keith. How are you doing? And I already got a question from Donnie Mono, but let me finish up what I got to talk about here, and then we're going to launch right into the show. I want to enlist your help. I'm very lucky that we have a platform that we can speak to large amounts of people about farming related issues, because a lot of times things are going good. Sometimes things are not going so good. And sometimes something crops up that we need to deal with as a group. I believe the more people we have dealing with this, the better off we're going to be. Let's see. How did the day go? I want to tell you about my day. Milk this morning. Did a biochar burn tonight. Oh, I mowed. I had some of the front yard that didn't get mowed, so I knocked that out. Gee, what else did I do? Huh. Oh, I talked on the phone. Some. Yeah, there's a situation going on. And I got several phone calls last week, Thursday, Friday, and then I got several today. And we have a situation at hand here. Those of you that watch my videos on Facebook, last week and the week before, I did some parody videos, and I was mocking the bird flu. Now, I got to tell you, I I don't have concrete proof that they are lying to us about this. It's just that I have no reason to believe them. Like, I think you're kind of dumb if you just, well, I'll just depopulate all my chickens. And what? You get a star on your forehead from these guys? I have no reason to believe them. This is, and we're talking here about the Department of Agriculture and all their little minions. And I am not a fan of the Department of Agriculture. They seem like almost the Department of Anti-Agriculture to me. They take paychecks to do what? What do they do? It's hard to figure out. But whenever they get to rolling, it seems like they're on a mission to fix something. So I was making fun of the bird flu. And I was saying, well, I'll come up with a vaccine. And I did a spoof on that I was going to infuse cigars with H5N1 milk. And if you smoke them, you'd be safe. It was obviously a spoof. And I said that I had made a vaccine, obviously spoofing them, because usually they hand you a problem, or they make a problem, and then they say, oh, here's the solution over here. And, they haven't been right about anything. I don't recall any time that they've been right about things. They've done all kinds of things. The feral swine thing, that was one that affected me. The deer baiting thing, like they just put this order out, from some department, and expect us to just do what they want, and we have very little. I don't know where the confidence in this outfit comes from. Why would you have confidence in these people when they don't come out with anything good? And so now they're at it again. If you go to their website, their director is saying how bad the H5N1 is and how bad it's going to be on all of us. And here's what we need to do, And of course, they're going to be right there at the rescue. And it's like, okay, but keep your mitts off of us. Leave us alone. You can deal with your industrial ag all you want. If that's what you want to do, we're checked out of that anyway. We do this. Mind your own business. Mind your own business. This is private property. This is a private enterprise. We're not under your authority. Just shut up, right? That's what we want. And that's what we are due under the law. Unless we include them in our business, then they can just shut up. They can just leave us alone. We don't have to pay any attention to them. Yeah, Inga's saying they flat out lie to get what they want. Yeah, and I don't really think it's what they want. I think they are minions. I think they are told what to do. And I'm not sure who, and I don't even want to know who. But they come off with these stories about what's happening and, oh, how terrible it is. But why aren't we getting affidavits in the form of white papers about this is what's happening, and PhDs are putting their signature on it saying, yes, I've looked into this. This is true to the best of my knowledge. Do. Because with that affidavit, if it turns out to be a lie, like what we're seeing right now with the what, you're seeing all over the place. People are saying, you guys lied to us. Well, you're the dummies that took it without proof. You took it without proof. You took your marching orders from the likes of Rachel Maddow on NBC, MSNBC, and Don Lemonhead, and the rest of the weirdos, right? There should have been proof that there was truly a problem that they said there was. I think there was some sort of problem. It could have just been the flu. But what they did was they showed you anecdotal evidence. They showed people keeling over in China. And they said, oh, yeah, China flu or bird flu, bat flu, whatever. And, I didn't believe them from the get-go. And now we're finding out that it came from a lab here in the United States. I mean, there's lots and lots of testimony about that. So anyway, these guys come up with this bird flu, and a bunch of stories were floating around, and they all had evidence that the bird flu is here, H5N1. It comes from wild birds, not bats, no, birds. And when they land on cows, their saliva gets in the cow's eyes, they're saying, and then the cows can get bird flu. Of course, you won't know they had it because nothing happens to them, but birds, they'll die in a couple of days. That's what they're saying. And so why are you guys getting involved here? What's the big deal? We haven't really seen a big deal. If you go online and you go to and you put in Michigan bird flu, you read all the stories. There's statements like it's in this county and it's in this county and it's but nothing else. And if you do get a story, it's not real clear what the problem is, but yet the corrective action, it seems, that they started last week was they visited 3 farms, and these, one of them I know, and it's Hidden Creek. The other 2, I don't know. I talked to one of the people on the phone today, and she's a heck of a fighter, and she's not going to, submit to their will. So what they did, here's how they operate. Thursday, or maybe it was Friday. Inga, was that Thursday or Friday? I'm drawing a blank on that. See what she says. All right. Well, it was either Thursday or Friday. Well, I guess I could tell you because I got, of course, and this plays into it. So allow me just a second here to, I can go back on this thread and I can figure out when this was. That's a nice thing about these phones. You can keep things. Okay, that was Friday. Okay, Friday at 11:48 a.m. I got a message from Crystal, who is the daughter of Inga and the wife of Lee Witt, and they run Hidden Creek Farm down in Dalton Township. It's down by Muskegon Way, and a car shows up, a state car, and 3 pulls in their driveway, right? 3 people get out of it, and they pulled a container out of their trunk, like a sprayer, and sprayed the tires down, right? And then they announced themselves, the 3 of them, to Crystal and Lee, and started asking questions and started making statements. We've got a complaint. Crystal and Lee milk some goats, and they have a goat herd share program similar to our cow herd share program. Long story short, Crystal and Lee have been down this road before, and they told them, no thanks. We're not interested. No, you're not going to look at our buildings. No, we're not answering questions. Just run along. And so they handed them a cease and desist. And when I woke up this morning, I thought, I got to find out what the commonality is in these cease and desists that they have handed out. And the cease and desist from the Department of Agriculture, in my mind, it's like a cease and desist from the Walmart greeter. They don't own this property. They have no stake in my operation. They're certainly not my mom and dad. I don't work for them. I don't see where they have any authority in our operations at all. We have no licenses. We don't carry licenses because we don't want to sign on the dotted line and say, we will do it your way. We don't want to do it their way. They don't like raw milk. There's a lot of things that they don't like. Usually they're very much in line with conventional agriculture. And I don't think that's good. I think they're way too one-sided. I don't think we're represented. And they are taking our tax tax dollars for their salaries, but they don't represent us, right? And all they really do is play the gotcha game with people. They don't really help people. They really don't. So anyway, they showed up, and Crystal and Lee handled them properly to some degree. I believe, Department of Agriculture always acts very unprofessionally by just showing up at somebody's place of business and expecting to get audience with them. I certainly would not allow that here. If they wanted to speak to me, they could make an appointment. They could call on the phone and say, "Hey, we'd like to talk to you." And I'd say, "Speak." Actually, I wouldn't. And I want to go through some of these things of why I wouldn't speak to them and why I'm going to urge you all tonight not to speak to them. You guys can do what you want, but I'm going to give you some anecdotal evidence of how they operate and why it's not a good idea for you to talk to them and why you don't have to talk to them. And I hope to show you how much authority you have and how little authority they have. I hope to show you that tonight. And that's what I want to talk about. I'm going to take your input on this. So by all means, it helps us out a lot if people have input, if they'll put it in there, they'll put it in the chat and I'll talk about it. Give us the thumbs up. And I'm going to ask you tonight, I'm going to ask you several times that I need this out there. I need this out there. We need a lot of people to be aware of what is going on. So they visited 3 farms in that same manner on Friday noonish, right before the Memorial Day weekend, which I think is classless. It's absolutely classless. And I'm going to tell you why I feel that way. So we do herd shares, and herd shares is a bit of a skirting of a law that exists in the state of Michigan that says you can't sell raw milk to the end user. So we don't. We sell shares into the herd. So people have ownership of that herd, and they are due per share a gallon of milk. So we're not selling milk, we're selling herd shares. And that was a deal that was worked out. It was actually going on while we were going through the pig thing. I'm not exactly on board with that because I feel as though the Fifth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution trumps anything that they say, right? If what they say doesn't square with the Fifth Amendment, which says my life, my liberty, and my property is protected under the due process of law, right? So if you have a substance that you're saying, well, you can't sell it. Oh, but I can possess it? Oh, yeah. I can produce it? Oh, yeah. Can I transport it? Yep. But you just can't sell it. Well, that's kind of a strange law, if you ask me. But that's talking about the sale of it. And we've said we're not selling it. We're doing herd shares. So we do not need to fall under any authority that the Department of Agriculture is putting out there because we're not grade A milk. And we don't want to be grade A milk. Grade A milk is the milk on the big dairies that goes in semis. It rolls down the road and goes to these plants where they process it into who knows what, yogurt and like the milk that you get from the store. They take all the cream out of it and then they put other things in it to make it taste like milk or what you are used to tasting when you taste that milk. But many, many people can't tolerate it because a lot of the enzymes that are in there so it can break down, they take them out. And they do that because they cook the milk. That's what pasteurization is. And why do they do that? They say, because if you drink raw milk, you could die. So you're doing that for my safety. Oh, thanks. But no thanks. Why are you choosing to keep me safe from milk, but not Jack Daniels? You don't seem to care about that too much. Oh, no, we don't care about that. That'll kill you, but no, we don't care about that. So it's pretty selective, and who knows why they do that. It almost seems like they're protecting something, like somebody else's market share or something like that. That's the way it seems. And anyway, their program of bird flu that they've put out, in all of the anecdotal stories that you read, you're reading, you get a common denominator on all of them. And it is, oh yeah, well, you can drink milk, no problem, so long as it's pasteurized. Oh yeah, you can eat hamburgers. That's not going to be a problem with bird flu. Oh, chicken, yeah, you can eat chicken, no problem, because you can't get it from eating the flesh. But if you drink raw milk, you'll get it. You see how that works? Bird flu, and yet they think that it's raw milk that is promoting it. One of the stories that I told you about last week was out of U.S. News and World Report, and it was a dairy, a big dairy way out in Texas, way over across the country in Texas. And don't you know they had 12 cats that died from drinking raw milk? We didn't see the autopsy report. We didn't see conclusive proof that it was raw milk bird flu that killed those cats. So bird flu, it won't kill your cows. It won't kill you, but it does kill cats. And so you shouldn't drink raw milk. So it seems like they're protecting the milk industry. That's the way it seems. We don't know, and we will probably know at some point. We'll know who's behind this, because we're not going to just let this roll over us. We're not going to do that. So we created the Anyone Can Farm tribe because it makes a lot of sense for all of us farmers to be able to connect quickly. Because look what happened on Friday. They went to one farm. It was called Miller's Farm, and I talked to them today. Showed up. She was busy, and she's a take no prisoners type anyway after I talked to her. And she was like, no, I don't have time for you today. I just don't have time. All right, see you. And they said a bunch of stuff to her, and then they emailed her a cease and desist order. Okay. Same kind of thing happened at Crystal and Lee's. And the third farm, we don't know who they are. We just don't know, right? Because they haven't come forward, and, we're going to find out, because we have this unique ability to do what's called a Freedom of Information request. And it's not really a request. It should be a Freedom of Information order, because when you engage these departments, any email that they have sent, received, all that stuff can never be deleted. They cannot delete that. Any notes that they take in meetings has to go in a file, and it has to be accessible to the public, because government is notorious for doing the bidding of the highest bidder. They're notorious for that. And so the Freedom of Information Act says that I can access that information just by demanding it. And a lot of these FOIA offices try to say, oh yeah, but we're going to charge you for it. Oh, really? So we'll talk about that another time. I don't really want to get into that right now. But we have the ability to FOIA the Department of Agriculture and get anything we want. We have to be a little bit specific when we ask for it, because you can't just say, I want all the emails from Tuesday. They have to be all the emails that pertain to, Hidden Creek Farm, Baker's Green Acres, Miller's Farm, all the names that we have. And then we will find out, were these just low-level inspectors that decided to do this? I know they weren't. These people don't operate like that. They're bureaucrats. They get orders from above. And then we get a chance to find out from the originating source, why'd you do this? Why'd you do this? And if we can determine that originating source is doing it for nefarious reasons, we can take action against them. And it's actually quite easy to do because they are not immune to lawsuit. And you can just bring it to one of them and say, okay, well, it looks like you started this and you are actually an oath taker and you're supposed to be respecting our constitutional rights. But you did it anyway. And you sent your goons to terrorize our farms. And that's really what it amounts to. Showing up at a farm just before the weekend so the farm family can fret on that all weekend. Now, I can only speak for Baker's Green Acres because I don't know the intimate details of Hidden Creek or Miller's Farm. But I know that we've put a lot of effort into our dairy, a whole lot of effort. Why did we do this? We did this because we have a family to feed. We have bills to pay. Just like the stinking bureaucrats at the Department of Agriculture. They have families, they have bills to pay, right? But somehow they don't mind with the sweep of a pen, just you can't do your thing anymore because we friggin' say so. They have no problem. They have no problem doing that. And these low-level agents that show up, they're just doing what they're told. And I know that's what they're going to say. Hey, I'm just doing my job. Oh, okay. All right. Well, I hope it works out for you. I think there is a price to pay of just doing your job. But we shall see. We shall see, because the tribe is a lot of people. And most people in the tribe are going to see this as egregious. I hope they see this as egregious. So what options do we have? I am a constitutionalist, or a Connie, and I hope you guys can understand that. I talked to a fella today that didn't seem to be able to understand it. He's at a township level. I hope he's not. Whatever. I don't care. This is just the impression that I got. And at the township level, he's creating ordinances for food sovereignty. And like I said to him, you don't think the Fifth Amendment's good enough? The Fifth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, you don't think that's good enough? You think you need to bolster it with food sovereignty regulations or ordinances on a county level? That's not really your job. I mean, on a township level, you think that's going to hold up any place? If you can do a sovereignty ordinance in favor of food sovereignty, well, could you do it not in favor of it? Like, you could put an ordinance together that says, no, you can only buy your food from the party store. That's it. Because we made an ordinance and we say so. We voted on it. No, you don't get to do that. Your township level. We reserve lawmaking to the legislature to do that. They are the lawmakers, right? And most of the time they're in a pretty good stalemate, and that's good. We don't want them making any more laws. We have enough laws. But if they do make a law that's repugnant to the U.S. Constitution, I'm under no obligation to give it any credence at all. I'm just not going to do it. And then it's their move. And if their move is to summons me to a court, okay, we'll talk about this in a court. And oh, by the way, I want a jury of my peers. And my peers live here in Missaukee County. So don't think about taking this down to Lansing, because we're not going. We're just not going. You will have to bring it here, right? Because I am due a jury of my peers, right? So the Fifth Amendment's really clear. My life, my liberty, and my property is protected under due process of law. What that means is we as citizens are protected from this type of thing that, say, like the direct culture has all this evidence that he's not really sharing with us. He's just throwing anecdotal evidence out there, he said, she said stuff, and saying, I'm declaring a statewide emergency for bird flu. So here's the top guy at the Department of Agriculture, big whoop, and he's telling me that we're in an emergency. So what? Where's the proof, Junior? Let's see the proof. And so far, all we're seeing is stories. Oh, well, this CAFO here had to kill 1,500 birds. They had to kill them, and they had to plow them into the field out there. Okay, that's not proof to me. I've not seen any proof. I just still haven't seen it. And none of us have, right? But they're wanting us to take measures, right? And so what this indicates to me is they're starting off slow. They go out there and they hand out cease and desists, and in both cases, they didn't sign them. A cease and desist notice, if you ever get one of these, or a cease and desist order, is one party saying, I want you to cease this activity now. I want you to stop this now. And stop it and not do it in the future. Desist. And they make their case to you, and they hand it to you, and they say, sign here. And if you sign that, if you agree with them that, oh yeah, bird flu, I shouldn't be doing this anymore, I'm a bad boy, they rip the star off your forehead and say, sign here, you're a bad boy. And you sign there, you've just entered into a legal contract with them. You said you'd stop. You agreed with us. We made our case that it's a bad thing and you shouldn't do it anymore. And you agreed and you signed on the dotted line. And then they sign on the dotted line under that. You just entered into a contract. And then if you start doing it again, well, you could be summoned into the county court, a civil court, right? Civil court is contract. It's contract court, right? Hey, there's Debbie Van Fossen. She hasn't been with us in a while, or at least she hasn't put her name up there. She might have just been trolling us, huh? Just Me's with us. Monopoly. David Duncan's with us. Oh, yeah, workers had mild symptoms. I don't care if Big Brother is in the forum. See, this is the thing. There's this fear that if you speak your mind, if you use your First Amendment, that somebody's going to do something to you. You're going to get canceled or something. But, when you cop that attitude, your children are going to have to deal with it, and their children are going to have to deal with it. So we're the adults, David. You and I are the men. We're the ones that need to be taking the spears right now. If for some reason, we are so way off here and we get convicted of a felony and thrown in jail, so be it. We took our best shot. I believe what I'm telling you right now is the truth. I believe what the Department of Agriculture is coming out with, this is just an opinion, is untrue. It's untrue I believe it's almost completely untrue, right? I'm not saying that there aren't diseases that exist in poultry. There certainly are, and it's usually when they're in confinement and being fed a single type of feed and in terrible conditions and all that stuff. But when they're out on the field, that's the whole reason we do that, is for their health. We don't have to give them any medication. We don't medicate our birds because we don't want to be feeding that medication, chicken medication, to our children, right? That's the whole idea. We don't pasteurize our milk because we like it the way it is. We think that God did a pretty good job of creating an animal, that can eat grass. And then he gave us all this grass that just spurts out of the ground. But the Department of Ag kind of steps in the way and says, yeah, what God did was good, but what do you call that? What do you call that? You know, it's almost like, yeah, you can be forgiven for your sins, but you gotta tell them to me first, and then I'll talk to God for you. Right? Is that sound familiar? So the creation that we've been given by our Holy Father is perfect, but these schmucks step in the way and say, yeah, but you got to do it our way, because it ain't good enough. And we're protecting you. We're protecting you. Oh, our Holy Father isn't protecting us, isn't not protecting us. So that's why when I went to the small farms conference a couple weeks ago, on my way down there, I started realizing, you know what, this is kind of a spiritual issue, isn't it? Because you have these entities that want to step in between us and our food. And they use what they call science, but anymore, I don't trust the science. I mean, if it's science, I trust it, but isn't NASA all scientists? You know, trust the science, they're always saying. But look what's just gone down. And what they do is they take the science and they twist it and they turn it into a spell, into an incantation, if you will. And then they keep throwing at you over and over. And the weak-minded will it. They hear it enough and they'll just buy into it. You know, there's people like on some of these homesteading channels that we're on once in a while, and you know, raw milk will come up, and people want to be the first ones in the room to say, "Oh yeah, raw milk, that's dangerous. You could die from drinking raw milk." And there's nothing further from that. I just don't. But it's sort of like, who was it? Heinrich Himmler. He said, if you tell a lie long enough and enough times for long enough, you know, that's all it takes, and people will just believe it. And I think it shows in our society right now. So anyway, that's what went on. And so it appears to me that an offensive has begun against raw milk in the state of Michigan. You know, up till now, the Department of Agriculture has said that they will look the other way on herd shares. Right? From the time I heard that, I thought, oh, that's not good. That's not good. But the entire argument was framed incorrectly. It should have been framed from the point of view of, we are a representative republic. That's our form of government here. And we are governed by a constitution, a federal constitution, and the state constitution has to line up with the federal constitution. Like, it cannot be repugnant. And the Fifth Amendment is very, very clear. And it's one of those amendments, sort of like the First Amendment, that you use it all the time, but you don't equate your freedom to do certain things preserved by this amendment, right? Our rights do not come from the Constitution. The Constitution just enumerates our rights, because we are children. We are created children, and our rights come from God. That's where they come from. And then you have entities like the Department of Agriculture that say, that ain't true. Your rights come from us. We get to tell you. We get to tell you. So I just see a lot of evilness within these departments. You know, they want control of something that is good and true and beautiful. And they want to say that, no, once you apply our spells and incantations to it, then it's good and true and beautiful. And I don't believe that's true. A point here, and maybe I should have made this point at the beginning. We have to come to a reckoning on our state of being here in these United States of America. We really do. as a people. You have to decide which side you're going to fall on. So we have this Constitution. Guys like me, there's many of them like me, that go into the military, apply for a position in the military, are accepted, go through the necessary training, and then you are sworn in. And here's what you swear to do. You swear to defend, protect, and defend what? A document. What document? The U.S. Constitution. You will never find somebody who has died for the regulations that come out of the Department of Agriculture that they dream up. And they say they buttress it with science. They say that. And then they like to talk in terms that they think we don't understand, so they can kind of fool us. But none of them will die for their regulations. On the other side, we have America's best and brightest that serve in the U.S. military. And that's no joke. And they are pledging their lives to defend this document. Now, in that document, we have the body of the Constitution. At the front of the Constitution, we have the Bill of Rights. And the Constitution was ratified without the Bill of Rights. It was added later, and it was added so that almost like a quick reference, so we could get a flavor for what the Constitution is and just understand it. And when somebody comes along and says, hey, you can't say that, we can say, well, I know from the First Amendment that it says that the First Amendment enumerates that I have the right to free speech. That means I can say any word I want. I can say any phrase I want. I can call anybody anything I want. I can make any statement I want. And, I'm not going to get stormtroopers coming in here and taking me out and shooting me. Oh, they'd love to. They would. They'd love to quiet people down like us. It can't be just me, though, you guys. It can't be. I need you to get on your horses here. I need you to saddle up this time, because this is an awful lot like the pig thing. If this department can come in and say, you can't milk cows because we say so, then what is next? Are they going to say you can't butcher cattle because we say so? Gee, I seem to had heard something a little while ago about them wanting us to eat bugs. I heard, and I keep hearing the blue hairs saying that, well, cattle farting, that contributes to global warming. They throw this stuff at you. It's so absurd, but they keep throwing it at you, and it's a demoralization campaign. And you have to see through it and say, no, not on my watch. I'm not letting it go. I'm just not letting it go. And I want to talk to you about how to proceed on this as well. But I think we all have to ask the question, is the Bill of Rights to the U.S. Constitution the supreme law of the land? I mean, is that what we're going to go by? Or are we going to just sit on the edge of our chairs and wait until the Department of Agriculture says that we can milk cows again? Because let's say they're going to go around, they're going to hit every farm and hand them a cease and desist. Do you think that it's ever going to be reversed? Do you think? It's not. When they gain power over a process that belongs to me, it's not those parasites that are milking my cows. They don't own cows. They don't own land. They don't own anything. They are the peasants in reality. They're the peasants. Their bosses that climb the chain within that stinking organization, they're making big dollars. For doing what? What do they produce? What product do they produce? What service do they get? Oh, food safety. Oh, yeah, don't forget that. Yeah, we'd all be dead without them, right? Wouldn't we? We would all be, we should be thanking them for all the things they do. So you have to decide, is the Constitution right? And is it what we're going to follow all the time, or just when there isn't a bird flu emergency? So Does that mean that the director of the Department of Agriculture can suspend my constitutional rights to own chickens, to own cattle, to milk cows, and to sell milk? That is a constitutional right, constitutionally protected. Can he take that away? Can the Walmart greeter guy take my rights away? Can he tell me what time to go to bed? Which pajamas to put on? What time to turn my lights out? No. They can't tell me anything. They have no authority in my life. The Department of Ag doesn't either. Now, they gain authority via contract. That's how they get it. So the cease and desist that Crystal got, I reviewed it, and they said, well, you're doing this pursuant to this regulation, and you're doing this pursuant to this regulation, and this pursuant to this law. And that was the one that says you can't sell, but they're not selling milk. They're selling shares. And because of that, cease and desist. So you broke two of their rules, and they say that you broke this last one, but you didn't. So therefore, you got to cease and desist. Now, if they'd assigned that, then they just entered an agreement. They entered a contract, and they said, well, okay, we won't do it. We're bad boys. We won't do it anymore. And then if they go and they do it, then they could be hauled summons to court to make their case. And, Exhibit A is a cease and desist. They signed it. We signed it. And then they went and did it again. The judge would be like, yeah, you did. Yeah, you shouldn't have done that. You shouldn't have signed it. Don't enter into contracts. I've told you guys over and over and over, do not get licenses from these organizations, because if you are answering to them, you are no longer in charge of your farm. If you have to wait and say, Mother may I, to some stinking inspector, some parasitic dirtbag inspector, then who runs your farm? They do. Because if you do something that they don't like, we can shut you down, they say. They really can't. They psych you into thinking that they can. And after a while, it's like the Stockholm syndrome. People are like, oh yeah, my inspector's a really good guy. I used to think that. We had an inspector lady. She was the one that, she's terrible. But I would pacify her. She had a little weight problem. And whenever she would show up here, I'd make sure I had a plate of cookies for her. And then she would tell me about what a lazy bum her husband is and sign the paperwork and leave. I never really gained anything from her. Nothing. There was never any exchange of ideas or anything. And the inside of her car looked like somebody took a trash can and dumped it. It was a state car. I'm not kidding. It was just McDonald's and everywhere, just a garbage heap in this car. And this is the person who we partnered with and gave the final say on our process of running our butcher shop. We did that. I got out of the service and I thought, well, okay, what do I need to do? And you need to sign right here. Okay, you got to have a license to do this. I do? Okay. Well, I haven't had a license in, I think it's 6, maybe 7 years now. We ditched the license because we realized that in the fine print of that license, we gave away our Fourth Amendment rights. We gave our Fourth Amendment protection away, right? It got kind of hairy there after we won our court case. Then they wanted to come and inspect our facility, and they showed up unannounced. And it's like, well, it says in the license that we can do that. And I was irritated, and I said, well, not today, you're not doing it. And I got kind of blustery with them, and I'm glad I did, because they turned out to be not very good people. It's like we won fair and square in a court of law, and then they wanted to get payback on us. All right, so I'm sitting here and I'm telling you guys, you got to pick. Either you're going to go with the Department of Agriculture's regulations, and you're going to allow them to dictate what happens on your homestead, or you're going to go with the Fifth Amendment, and you're going to have to do a little work on that. Like if you think one of your homesteading products is going to be methamphetamine, let's say, and you think that we can produce that in the barn. No, you can't. Methamphetamine is a controlled substance. It is against the law to manufacture, possess, use, or transport. You can't do that. That's not protected. That is not protected because it is against the, what word? Law. Law. Department of Agriculture makes regulations, right? Nice sounding word for a rule. That's a rule. When you come into Walmart, you got to have a t-shirt on that doesn't have any profanity on it, because we say that's a rule. Well, what if I don't? What happens then? Are you going to touch me? I don't think so. You'll wake up in the hospital. You're not allowed to touch me, right? You can't do that. You can't assault. You can't battery. You cannot do battery, right? Assault is, I'm going to touch you. Battery is when you do touch me. You can't do that. And I can rebuff that. And I can defend myself, right? So them touching you, laying hands on you, grabbing your arm, something like that, not smart. Not a smart thing to do. You can't do that. So how are we going to proceed from here? How are we going to proceed from here? Many of you are milking. Many of you have taken my advice and said, hey, I want to make my homestead work. I want to be able to have my husband stay home, and we have to have gainful work here that makes enough money to meet our bills. And I've said, wow, milking cows, that's a good one. That's a real good one. You can make good money doing it. There's a lot of people that want milk, and the trajectory on it is good. In my opinion, it's good. Now, would we be going through this if the trajectory were not good? No, I don't think so. I think the trajectory that I see is the same trajectory that somebody else is seeing, and they're saying, we can't have this. This is not what we want. Why? Because it's cutting into our market share or something like that. Now, do I know that? I don't know that. I don't know that for sure. It's an opinion, right? I can give my opinions, can I? But it sure seems fishy, because I don't think it's because of bird flu that kills cats. Doesn't kill cows, kills cats, gives people pink eye, the farm workers. It's funny, there was a farm worker here in Michigan. He got pink eye too. Same as the farm worker that was out in Texas. Maybe they were Mexicans and they got some hot sauce in their eye. Could that be? Maybe there's some consistency here. What were you guys having for lunch? Oh, tacos, right? Yeah. All right. So how are we going to proceed on this? Can I give you some helpful tips on how to proceed with this? I hope that's why you came. I hope you want to hear these helpful tips. And I hope that you will share this, because the more of us that are on board with the way to rebuff this offensive, we're rebuffing it, right? If you have something coming into your life that wishes to do harm to you, you need to rebuff it. You need to push it away. You need to figure out a way to make that not so profitable to the other side. I'm not comfortable with saying we're at war. Let's go to war at this point. However, these people do want to take your livelihood away. You're not asking to take theirs away, but they want to take yours away. So it's serious. It could be very serious, like for the Miller family. Very serious to them. They lost a lot of sleep this weekend. But to her credit, when I talked to her on the phone, they shouldn't have messed with the Millers. They shouldn't have messed with them. So what can you do? Okay, so we can just go down the list. Let's start with the First Amendment. What can you do under the First Amendment? You can use your mouth now. You can use your little click finger on your mouse. You can spread this word. If everybody that's hearing this spreads this, spread it, and everybody hears this message, the other side is going to say, damn, we're never going to get this done. No, and they're not going to get it done. And what happens if they don't get it done? Did they get the feral swine thing done? I've told you guys about that many times. That involved me, and it was just one guy and his wife, one family, that dug their heels in and said, no, we're not doing it. They came up with this wild story that feral swine were everywhere in the state of Michigan. They're behind every stinking tree, is what they were saying. Nobody saw them. Nobody. The only person that saw one or said they saw one was the Attorney General's right-hand woman at a briefing. She raised her hand and she said her Uncle Tony had seen one back in 1973. And I said, are you work for Bill Schuette? And she said, yeah. I said, I was told that you'd be here, and I expected that from you. Thank you very much, because you're the first person who's told me in one of these briefings that they've seen a feral swine, but it wasn't you. It was your Uncle Tony, right? I used to go and speak all over the state during this time because it was the same type of thing. If you have a department, and it was the Department of Agriculture, that says, okay, nobody in the state can have pigs anymore unless they're in confinement. That's what they were saying. Well, and they said it was, well, we got to protect the environment. You don't want feral swine running around all over the place like down in Louisiana. How many people been to Louisiana and see feral swine? I was in Texas a lot. I never saw one. I know they were there. I saw their tracks and stuff. But people have great fun with feral swine down there. They've been in Texas for a long time, right? Who saw Old Yeller? Justin, did you see Old Yeller? That was Texas, right? Okay, so that's an old movie. But how are we going to proceed? Okay, let's just start with the First Amendment. You all can do something here. You all can contribute to this. Because if you don't, and they can say you can no longer milk cows, it won't be long before they can say, Zilka, you can no longer raise them long-horned beasts that you raise. Because, well, look at the horns on them. Somebody could get an eye poked out, right? They can say, for the safety of the children. You know, that's basically what they're doing. They're saying this is for public safety. So we have to stop people from milking cows. That's what they're saying. If they get away with this, what is next? You name it. You name it, because you've just given a stinking department the mandate to say, oh, what do we want to ban next? We had a good time when we banned baiting of deer. Remember the chronic wasting disease? You know, they showed a few pictures, and then my Uncle Bob seen one, right? And then they know you can't bait deer anymore. You know what that did to the people that raise carrots? It put a lot of them right out of business, right? And it's just the department said, well, you know, because if too many deer to come to it, they could spread it amongst them, and you know, deer never bunch up any other way. So, okay, those of you that have your First Amendment and it's secure, and you know that you can spread this word, maybe tell your friends, talk it up, get on social media, and literally bash the adversary. I mean, that's really what we need to do. I've already done one interview with the Associated Press, and I knew, you know, the only reason I did it was because I wanted to see what are the questions they were going to ask me. And when I finally found the article, they never mentioned my name, and it's because I was pretty smart about the way I did the article, so I didn't say anything that they could have used against us. Okay, what's the next thing that you can do? Let's go number 2, the right to own and bear. You know, we don't want to be a society of people that is constantly taking up arms. But when you are in a constitutional citizen and you have the right to own and bear, I think you should. I think you should. I don't see where that's going to become an issue with this. I don't. And I'm by no means saying that go get you a gun. You know, I'm not saying that because the Department of Ag's out there. I'm not saying that. These people are not those type of people, and you really don't have to worry about that. But I think that it is imperative that every citizen is armed. I think that's imperative. It balances the power, right? It balances the power. If you have a prison camp and you have a bunch of prisoners in there, let's say you have 300 prisoners in a prison camp, and you have 14 guards, but they all have submachine guns, there is an imbalance of power, correct? Right? You balance that up by a heavily armed society, and then if some tyrannical entity comes along, it would probably be from within, they're going to think twice. These people got lots of guns, and they're pissed off, right? Right. So I think it's a good thing. I mean, I'm not going to skip it just because it's guns, and they can use it against you. I'm just sure they'll take clips out of this and say, well, he's telling people to arm up. I've always told people to arm up. It's always been your responsibility to defend the homeland, right? Number 3 doesn't have a whole lot to do with this. Number 3 has to do with keeping building soldiers in your home. That's not something that's usually done anymore. It was a big deal during the revolutionary times. They had redcoats staying in the homes of the colonists, and they were hearing everything that was said. They were eating at the table with the colonists. There's an article that just was sent to me from Carrie Kronk. And it's raw milk at a crossroads, again, westonprice.org. So I'm going to have to read that. Okay, what's the next thing? The Fourth Amendment. You've got to understand the Fourth Amendment. The Fourth Amendment protects your right to be safe in your home, on your property, on private property. So my home is a big piece of property. No one can come on my property without my say-so, without my invitation, or a warrant, right? And a warrant is obtained by a law enforcement officer going to a judge and saying, I'm going to swear to you that I have reasonable suspicion that the law is being broken here. And the judge is going to say, the judge is an elected official. Okay, what law? How do you know? Are you sure? Tell me what you saw. Because the judge has got to get elected. So if they come rolling in here and they do a bunch of damage and they get nothing, well, that judge is the one that's got to answer for it, right? The judge is the one that's got to answer for it. And the judge is going to be going back to that patrolman and saying, you son of a, look what you did. Right. And if that does happen to you, you can seek damages against that judge. You can. All right. So you've got to understand your Fourth Amendment. What happened at Crystal and Lee's should not have happened, but they don't respect your constitutional rights. But if Crystal and Lee had said, get off now, and let's say they refuse. No, we're Department of Agriculture. We get to be here and look at all your stuff. That's a 911 call. That is a 911 call, right? Because just like you, when you run your mouth in Walmart during the Wu flu and a patrolman comes, he says, okay, they're trespassing you. So I'm going to write this up. You've been trespassed from this property. You can't come on here again. If you do, then it's a criminal offense, and you will wind up in a criminal court over that, right? So what can you do? I'm not sure I'm going to do this, but I recommend this for the more timid of you who don't want to lock horns with these people, don't want to ever see them. I'm going to recommend that you draft a letter to the director of the Department of Agriculture, and you inform him that you do not want any of his personnel or equipment, very important, on your property. You do not want that. So you are preemptively trespassing him. I do not want to do business with you, and you are not welcome here. You sign it, email it. Email is the good way to go. And then you email it to several other people. You could email it to your sheriff, so he has it on record. And with his, you could put an addendum on there and say, could you start a file for me? I'm getting a hassle from these people, and I've told them that I don't want them on my property. I have no contract with them. I have no license with them. I don't want them on my property. And if the sheriff questions that, you could say, oh, well, could we have a chat about it? And you could go and tell him what you think. But if you're asking him to start a PIF, a personal information file on you, there's no reason why he wouldn't, right? And keep that on file. That way, if they do show up, you're already at strike two. It's already a criminal thing. So when they show up, you say, okay, I want you to stay right where you are. 911. I've got criminal trespassers on my property right now. And when the sheriff's department comes in, they have to. You show them a copy of the letter. These people were informed not to come here ever again. And they did. And therefore, the police report will be a criminal police report. And that has to be answered for. And, as the homeowner, you get the choice. Hey, do you want to push this? Do you want to push this? And I would say, oh, yeah, for sure. We're going to push this, right? Because you have the option. You could say, nah, forget it. I mean, we deal with this as landowners when you have people who hunt and they want to hunt on your land. You catch them hunting on your land and you kick them off. Well, it's smart to document it. It's smart because then if you kick them off again, then it's a criminal offense. They're trespassing, right? But that you can do that. And that is a Fourth Amendment issue. You have the right to be safe on your own property from who? From the tyrants, right? You're not doing business with them. They don't have a reason to come on your property. Just because their name is the Department of Agriculture doesn't mean that they have the authority to come on private property because you're conducting agriculture. That's not the way it works. It sounds like that, but that is not the way it works. Who's had a Mormon show up at their house, or a group of Mormons, or a couple of Mormons? They kind of show up unannounced, knock on the door. Hey, can we talk to you? It's like, I was just getting in the shower. No. Okay, we'll come back later. No, don't come back later. Don't come back later. Like, they can come one time, but if you ask them not to, then they shouldn't. Would I press it with them? I don't think so. I just say, come on, guys, head down the road. We don't want to do it. Or whoever, I don't mean to pick on the Mormons. They might be the Catholics, but Catholics don't usually do that. I don't know. Okay, let's move on to the Fifth Amendment. The Fifth Amendment is a long paragraph. I recommend that you download that and read it. Part of the Fifth Amendment is you cannot be compelled to give testimony against yourself. You can't be compelled. That means you can't be strapped to a chair and whipped. I mean, that's the extreme, but you can't. That doesn't work under the U.S. Constitution. If that ever happens, if you are compelled or coerced, that's a problem for whoever does it. But the other part of that is that your life and your liberty and your property is also your process. Like, if your process is that you like to have a refrigerator out on your front porch, might not look too good to the neighbors, but if you like it and it's your house, your front porch, and your fridge, that's protected. Unless there is what? A law against it. Is it illegal to have a fridge on your front porch? No. You might have some wiener come around and say, hey, we don't allow that. We don't allow that. Well, who are you? Oh, we're from the compliance office, right? Get lost. You can't make me do that, right? No, they have these things called HOAs. Now, that's a different story. And I always wait for people to bring it. Well, I live in an HOA and they won't even let us put a flag up. What happens with that is when you move into a housing area, so some contractor buys a huge chunk of land and builds 50 houses in there, and they don't want it getting run down and looking like a dung heap. And so they set up some rules, the housing rules, right? And if you buy one of those houses, you're agreeing to the rules, right? And in a lot of these, the rules are you can't put up a flag, right? And there's always some old veteran that puts up the stars and stripes, and they come around and they say, you got to take the flag down. And he's like, I'm not taking that flag down. I fought for that flag in Korea. It's like, dude, you agreed to it when you moved in here. If you can put that flag up, then the gays can put their flag up, the Nazis can put their flag up, and so on and so forth. And we're going to just have a problem. Going to have F Biden signs up there and Trump forever signs and all that stuff. They've said we don't want that. And most people agree, yeah, come on, let's have no signs. This is a place where we're going to live. I don't care who you're voting for. You're not going to influence me by the sign you put on your front lawn. So no signs. But that's something that you agree to when you move in. Yeah, do you have a constitutional right to? You gave it up. You gave it up in that instance, right? The same thing with Walmart. They had this thing recently, no open carry of firearms in there. In the state of Michigan, I can carry a gun anytime I want. I can sling a rifle if I want and go any place I want. So long as it's open, in the open, right? But to put it under my coat, they say I'm supposed to have a concealed weapons permit. The problem I have with that, and I've not pushed it because it's not my thing. The Second Amendment is clear. The rights of the citizens to own and bear arms shall not be infringed. So if I like to carry it under my coat, why do I have to get permission from the sheriff to do that? I have the right to own and bear this. Bear means present it or carry it. Why do I need permission from the sheriff? So I don't really go by that. And, you might wind up in some temporary hot water, but I believe in the end, if you stick to your guns, you will prevail because the Second Amendment is so clear. We're either going to go by the rules of the county or the rules of the state, or we're going by the U.S. Constitution. One or the other. But what happens usually is the prosecutor will come and say, we can take your birthday away from you if you want to push this game on. And they'll usually intimidate you into taking a plea, and they'll keep your gun and you plead to a weapons charge, whatever. I don't know. I don't carry guns, so I don't really care. I mean, I do. I shouldn't say that because maybe you guys are saying, well, I don't milk cows, so I don't care. Yeah. We'll deal with that one later. And so on and so forth. I am not going to get 6th, 7th, 8th Amendment. I don't need to. I mean, it would be a nice class to do. But I think at some point, what we may ask you all to do, and this worked really well last time, and Aaron's here tonight, we will ask you all, I will give you the email address of the director, and we'll ask him a question. Do your regulations and rules supersede this Constitution? I need a yes or a no. And if he says yes, his rules do, then he's very close to could be a big problem right there, because he should know the difference. If he says, well, no, then why are you pushing this? Why are you doing this? You're trying to fool us. This is, trying to persuade us under the color of law. We're the citizenry. You're not supposed to be doing that to us, right? So we'll see where this goes. One of the things that I did see, I mean, I'm getting as much of this material as I can and read it and trying to figure out, are they going, is this a full blown offensive here? Or did they just try it to see what would come of it? It may be that the calm that's been going around in a very short time amongst us small farms is enough for them to say, we don't need the hassle, drop it. And that's good. That's kind of what we would like. That would be smart of them to do that. Let's not bring it to a head, because one of these farms is going to say, not doing it, take your best shot. And then they either got to poop or get off the pot. And if they abandon the program at that time, they're going to look kind of like the DNR did with our case. They pushed it and pushed it and pushed it until they realized they couldn't win. And then they moved for a dismissal. And they looked like punks. They looked like the punks that they are. Department of Ag, too. They're a bunch of punks, too. So I don't think that the parties that are involved in this are going to back off. I think they're going to push this. And, okay, you guys started the fight. Now you're going to either, I don't know, we're going to force them to finish it, I believe. So the department, the director of the department, I read something from his desk, and he's requesting that all of us farms hire a let's see, what was the term? I can't think of what the term he used now. It was a biosecurity manager, right? And that we are to catalog all the traffic that comes in, the time that it comes in, and the time that it leaves, where it came from, and where it's going. They want us to do that, and they want us to make those records available to them if they ask. That's their request. And I think that what that is doing is sort of kind of the mask effect, you know, and like the Home Depot effect, where they only had one door you could go in and the door on the opposite end of the building where you had to go out of. Like, what good does that do? But it's just to shock the public into knowing that this is serious. You know, when they went to Crystal and Lee's house, I thought that this was funny. The guy gets out, and he's got a sprayer, and he sprays the tires down. Did he spray the entire tire down? Did he get under the vehicle and spray the inside of the tire? No. It was just a show to make it look like, ooh, the evil bird flew. And we're doing everything we can. We're doing everything we can. We're spraying these tires down. See us? I tell you what, I think that was a major flaw in their charade, because they went on private property and sprayed a substance onto the ground or on that property. It definitely contacted the property. Now, we already don't trust these people. We have no reason to trust these people. And what is it that you sprayed? What is it? Was it Mr. Clean? Oh, Mr. Clean will combat the bird flu? Then what's the friggin' problem here? If Mr. Clean will combat the bird flu, why are you wanting to depopulate people's animals when we could just get a little Mr. Clean going? Right? I don't think it was Mr. Clean, but whatever it is, why aren't you guys making that available to us? Why is it we don't know what that is, but you guys do? Or is it just a show? It's just a show. Now, as the biosecurity manager of my farm, I may take this to the extreme. Now, probably not with my customers, but with anybody else that I don't really want here. Oh, yeah, it's going to be extremely extreme. It's going to be a process where you come in. It's going to take a while to get processed through before the biosecurity manager, moi, feels comfortable with the situation. Oh, yeah, it's going to be extreme. And I have the right to do that. Like, Walmart has the right to say no open carry, but Mark has the right to say no street clothes available. You can't wear street clothes while you're here that you were on some other farm. Oh no. You actually have to take those clothes off and put this on or shower, then put this on, and then before you leave, you got to shower out because I don't want you contaminating another farm. Right? It's going to be extreme. It's going to be extreme. I don't think they'd ever come here, but now you guys can take that wherever you want. I know that I was talking to some of my Marine friends yesterday, and they said we have to create what's called a FOB on each one of our farms. A FOB is a forward operating base. That's an acronym for a forward operating base. And all services do it differently, but there's a lot of similarities. And to get on that base, to get back in that base, it can be a process. And if you demonstrate any buttholishness, it gets even worse because we've got to make sure that these vehicles that are coming in do not have anything on them that's going to go boom. So we have to be able to trust the people that are coming through that gate. Have you had control of this vehicle the whole time? Yes, I have. So you're sure nobody put anything up underneath it? I'm positive. We weren't any place where there was anybody else. Okay, I'm going to take a quick look with this mirror. And then you're in and we're safe. But if the guy says, man, I don't know, just open the gate, let me through. Usually contractors do stuff like that. Oh, you're going to be waiting. Oh, you're going to be waiting a long time. And what usually happens, listen to what I'm saying here, Justin. What usually happens is in order for me to inspect that vehicle very closely, I may have to put a jack under it to jack it up so I can get under there with my flashlight to look around, or take some swabs off the tire or something like that. And when it's up on the jack, I might just let it down on a jack stand. And then I'll lift the other side up and I'll jack it up. And then I'll let it down on the jack stand. And now, wouldn't it be a shame if that vehicle didn't pass my inspection? I'm sorry, this vehicle can't go anyplace. There's some discrepancies here that have to be taken care of. Okay, we'll get them taken care of. I'm sorry, I can't do it with you. I have to. I'm the CEO here, and I'm also the, the quality control agent. I'm also the biosecurity manager. I really can't talk to you about this. This is way above your pay grade. I will need to speak to the director about this because I'm the number one guy here at Baker's Green Acres. I will talk to the number one guy at the Department of Ag and no one else. I don't talk to privates. I'm the CEO here. I'm not going to talk to you. You're the lowest of the lows in that organization. I will only talk to somebody of a commensurate rank and position. You hear what I'm saying, you guys? You hear what I'm saying? And that is legit. Generals don't talk to privates. They don't. If you're a general and you're surrendering your army, you only surrender to somebody of equal rank. Generally, that's the way it happens. Now, there have been cases where generals have surrendered to captains because all the generals weren't available and they couldn't do it or whatever. But generally, that does not happen. And in this instance, it will not happen. I'm not going to talk with those peasants. Why should I? I'm a landowner. They're not. They're just peons in that organization. They might not even be there 6 months from now. Why should I try to negotiate with them? I don't want them on my property. I don't do business with them. I don't need them. They haven't been here in 6-7 years. And even when they were coming, they were as useless as can be. They don't know what they're doing. They usually have a degree in like animal sciences or something. You talk to any kid that works on a farm and they know more about animals than these people do. Anyway, let's see what we got here. I'm going to read some of these comments. I think I keep going too much. I'm going to. Make them assume the position while you whip out the rubber glove. You know, I'll tell you a story, and this is an absolutely true story. When we won our court case against the DNR, we were suing the DNR, but actually it was the Department of Agriculture was behind the whole thing. They just got the DNR to do it because they have guns and they're intimidating and stuff. And when we won, what do you know? Now all of a sudden, the Department of Agriculture wants to roll in here and inspect my property. And as I told you, one day they did, and I said, no, go to hell. Get out of here. I don't need this now. I got enough problems without you guys. And I wasn't even sure if we were going to stay on this farm, because I was just had a bad taste in my mouth over the whole thing. Well, then they had somebody from Lansing come up here, a woman, and she handed me her card. And the guy that handed me his card, he was a local turd, and it had his name, and then under it, his position, he was a food inspector, right? Now, this woman came all the way from Lansing, and her card said senior food inspector, right? And when I first looked at it, I thought it said senior. I was like, lady, we don't have any Mexicans here. And then I said, oh, senior food. Oh, you're a senior food inspector? Wow. Well, we have a strict no weapons policy on Baker's Green Acres, so I'm going to have to give you the once over. Do you have a problem with that, ma'am? And she said, you're not going to search me. I said, then I guess that's the end of this. I see, that's a policy that we have on Baker's Green Acres. When any of you dirtbags come on here, I want to make sure that the balance of power is heavily in my favor. That means I'm armed and you're not. That's my policy. Take it or leave it. And she says, I'm not armed. And I said, but I have to make sure. Like, I can't say to the TS agent, I'm not armed. Oh, that guy's going to say, well, I got a wand here and I'm going to make sure that you're not armed, or I'm going to frisk you every which way I can. And I've had that happen to me before. Even though I'm a card carrying GI, I've had to be frisked by those swine. She wouldn't comply. She wouldn't submit to my being frisked. So I said, then we can't continue this. And they ran along. They went away. My rules, babe, my rules. So I'm telling you that because you need to think about that. You need to think about that. You need to get together a plan in your head that if all of a sudden one of these unprofessional people shows up at your property and wants to speak to you, what are you going to do? Are you going to speak to them? Well, I could be cordial, or you could just tell them no. You could just tell them no. You'd say that to the Mormons, wouldn't you? No, I don't want to. No, not today. No, I don't want to. I don't want to talk about at all. I got things to do. Run along. Okay. I'm going to read these comments here. Yeah, Inga says that was Friday. I determined that from my phone there, Inga. Thanks. A law repugnant to the Constitution is void. Thanks, Aaron. Repugnant means 180 degrees. 180 degrees out. David Duncan says, I welcome being arrested. If they are feeling froggy, prove the Constitution is law or it's not. Our Creator gave us all the herbs of the fields and the fruits of the trees, vines, and plants, honey, milk, and every creature. Arise, kill, and eat. But not pigs. Mr. Duncan, to some bee pollen from my olive and my back pain disappeared. Your word is the truth. Took some. This is Jay-Z. Mr. Duncan, I took some bee pollen from my hive and my back pain disappeared. And then David says, Mr. Duncan. And then please give Mark thumbs up, says Keith. And David Duncan says, I don't remember speaking with you, Jay-Z. I wish I had bees. Oh, Jay-Z, what's happening? All right. Mosquitoes are coming in. So I need you guys to get busy on this, and this will maybe it'll turn out to just be an exercise, but we need to show how powerful we are as the Anyone Can Farm tribe. This is the point of this. So you are not being picked off by the wolves individually. Now they're dealing with a crowd of us. There's more of us than there are of them. Far more. There's 10,000 people in the tribe. So if you can share this, share it onto the tribe, make your own video and share that onto the tribe, do some memes and put that on the tribe. Mockery does a tremendous job. So I could see somebody making a video about, hey, I got an idea how to keep the bird flu off your farm, and go out there and spray down your tires with a sprayer, make fun of it, because it really is stupid. It's about as stupid as wearing a face mask thinking that's going to keep the CV away from you. Okay. That's what I had to tell you. Also, big news too. Big news. Tomorrow night is our consulting call. We have a good number of people in Tribe Plus. Not many of them are milkers. Not many. So what we're going to do, because we can do this, and the mission comes first. I know a lot of you have paid to be in Tribe Plus, and you've received, what I offer up to this point to be in Tribe Plus. But we are going to open it up tomorrow for anybody that wants to be in on this discussion, and everybody will have a chance to talk and tell what's happened to them, and what they believe. We can share intel, and we can get a better idea of what direction we're going with this. So anyone that private messages me and leaves their phone number, we will give them a code to come into the Zoom meeting tomorrow night. We start at 8 o'clock, and we'll go as long as we need to. But we want to share all this information. I want to get a roster going. I want to get a map and put push pins in it where they've gone, so we can get an idea of the pattern that they're working, and we're going to decide what we're going to do, because we're not just going to wait and hope it goes away. That's not it. I mean, these people are vulnerable to us, and we have options, legal options here. So, okay, that's all I got for tonight. I'm going to go. I got some correspondence to do. Thanks everybody for coming. Remember, anyone can farm. This is a defining moment right here. It really is. Here you are faced with a situation where they're saying, you guys can milk, but you guys can't, because we say so. What's next? What's next? I ask you. So if you don't get on your horse now and ride, what comes, I don't know how to put that. I don't want to blame people, but I'm saying, okay, we need your help, because we want to preserve our right to do this. We have the right to do this. I will always just do it. I will never comply with these wiener heads. Okay. But now's the time for you to get on your horse and ride. Now's the time to say, okay, what can I do before you go to sleep tonight? What can I do to help? There may come a time where we have a letter writing campaign and demand responses. If we can get 1,000 letters going to the Attorney General demanding this guy's head on a platter, you never know what she might do. You never know. Mosquitoes bad. All right, I'm going to go. Night, you guys. Anyone can farm.